Ellen Harper, Elizabeth Kane, Marianne Doyle, Amanda Rivers, and Maria Falk. 5 ordinary women whose names became synonymous with terror. Beneath their unassuming facades lurked chilling secrets, each more twisted than the last. From the quiet widow who buried her past in poison to the survivalist who turned Alaska's wilderness into her hunting ground, these women shattered every expectation of who a killer could be. Their stories aren't just about crime, they're about the unthinkable lurking in plain sight. The small town of Stillwater was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else. Its quiet streets and picturesque charm seemed to promise safety, where neighbors exchanged pleasantries and life moved at a leisurely pace. Ellen Harper fit seamlessly into this idyllic setting. She was the grieving widow who had endured more tragedy than anyone should in one lifetime. Over the span of 20 years, she had lost 4 husbands, each under seemingly unrelated circumstances. To the townsfolk, Ellen was a tragic figure, a woman cursed by fate, forever shadowed by loss. Her first husband, David, had drowned during a fishing trip. A freak accident, they said, after his boat capsized in a sudden storm. The second, a contractor named Jim, died when a gas explosion leveled their home. Ellen escaped unscathed, earning the town's sympathy and whispers of divine intervention. Her third husband, Mark, a truck driver, perished in a fiery crash on a remote highway. The fourth, a retired schoolteacher named Harold, succumbed to a sudden heart attack while tending their garden. Each death seemed plausible enough, but the pattern was impossible to ignore, at least for those who dared to look closer. When Ellen married her 5th husband, Robert, eyebrows began to raise. Robert, a retired detective with a sharp mind, had come to Stillwater for peace after a career spent chasing criminals. He found Ellen enchanting, a soft-spoken woman who seemed to embody the tranquility he craved. Their wedding was modest but joyful, and for a time, it seemed Ellen's streak of misfortune might have ended. That illusion shattered 6 months later when Robert was found dead at the base of their staircase. His neck was broken, and the official report ruled it an accident. Ellen, once again, became the town's object of pity. But Robert's death unraveled a thread that would expose the truth. Among his belongings, police found a small leather-bound journal. Inside were pages of meticulous notes about Ellen, detailing her previous marriages, the circumstances of each death, and his growing suspicions. Intrigued by Robert's findings, authorities launched a quiet investigation. They exhumed the bodies of Ellen's previous husbands, a controversial decision that divided the town. When the toxicology reports came back, they revealed a chilling pattern. Traces of aconite, a rare and deadly poison, were found in all 4 men. It was a substance difficult to obtain and even harder to detect, but Ellen had somehow mastered its use. Ellen's arrest sent shockwaves through Stillwater. The woman everyone thought they knew, a kind neighbor, a grieving widow, was now revealed as a methodical killer. Prosecutors argued that she had murdered her husbands to collect life insurance payouts, amassing a small fortune over the years. Yet even as the evidence mounted, Ellen maintained her innocence with unwavering composure. Her calm demeanor during the trial unnerved even the most seasoned observers. Some residents began to wonder, had Ellen truly orchestrated these deaths? Or was she a victim of an elaborate frame-up by someone equally cunning? The truth, perhaps, was as elusive as the woman herself. Elizabeth Kane was a name that carried an air of mystery and allure in the lively, chaotic heart of New York City. Known by her stage name, the Black Orchid, she was the star attraction at an upscale jazz club in Manhattan. Her performances were mesmerizing, her voice sultry and hypnotic, drawing in a crowd of wealthy patrons eager to hear her sing. But beneath her glamorous exterior, Elizabeth harbored a dark and twisted secret, one that would turn her into one of the city's most notorious killers. Over the span of 5 years, 4 affluent men, each known to frequent the club and dote on Elizabeth, vanished without a trace. At first, their disappearances seemed unconnected. The men hailed from different walks of life: a stockbroker, a real estate tycoon, a retired judge, and a prominent art dealer. Each disappearance sparked mild curiosity, but was eventually overshadowed by the relentless pace of the city. Life moved on, and no one suspected the connection between them. No one, that is, except the detectives quietly piecing together the puzzle. The breakthrough came when a routine audit of missing persons linked all 4 men to Elizabeth's club. Witnesses confirmed they had last been seen with her, leaving together in expensive cars or slipping away to quiet corners. Still, there was no solid evidence to tie Elizabeth to their fates. Her public persona was flawless, charming, intelligent, and seemingly above reproach. She played the role of a grieving friend flawlessly, expressing shock and sadness over the disappearances. Her undoing began with a careless mistake. During a renovation of her apartment, workers stumbled upon a hidden compartment behind a wall. Inside was a collection of items belonging to the missing men: watches, cufflinks, wallets, and even a distinctive ring that one victim's family had described in detail. The discovery prompted an immediate search of the property, and what investigators found was far more sinister. Buried in the garden of Elizabeth's suburban home were the bodies of all four men, arranged in a ritualistic pattern. Each had been carefully preserved, their remains eerily pristine despite the passage of time. Alongside the bodies, investigators found a chilling journal written in Elizabeth's meticulous handwriting. It detailed her fascination with control and her disdain for the wealthy men who, in her view, had treated her as little more than an object of desire. Elizabeth was arrested amid a media frenzy, her calm demeanor unnerving reporters and detectives alike. During her trial, she claimed the murders were acts of revenge against men who had used their power and privilege to exploit women. The jury, however, was unconvinced. She was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Despite her incarceration, Elizabeth's legend lived on. Fans of her music mourned her downfall, while true crime enthusiasts dissected her case, fascinated by the enigma of the Black Orchid. To this day, her story serves as a chilling reminder of how charm and darkness can coexist, hidden beneath the surface of even the most captivating personas. Marianne Doyle had always been described as compassionate, dedicated, and selfless. As a nurse, she worked tirelessly in hospitals and care facilities, earning the trust and admiration of colleagues and patients alike. To many, she was an angel of mercy, someone who eased suffering and provided comfort in the darkest moments. But beneath her calm, nurturing exterior, a far more sinister truth was unfolding. Over a period of 6 years, a troubling pattern began to emerge at the hospitals where Marianne worked. Patients who seemed stable or even recovering suddenly took a turn for the worse, often in the middle of the night. The deaths were recorded as natural causes, a tragic but not uncommon reality in healthcare. Marianne was always there, offering solace to grieving families and coworkers, her presence a source of comfort. It wasn't until a new doctor joined the staff that questions began to surface. Dr. Ellen Park was meticulous and observant, and she couldn't ignore the unusually high number of deaths in Marianne's ward. When she reviewed patient records, she noticed an unsettling consistency. Most of the patients who had died unexpectedly had received medication shortly before their deaths, often administered by Marianne. These weren't isolated incidents. The numbers were alarming, and Dr. Park decided to take her concerns to the hospital administration. At first, the idea of investigating Marianne seemed absurd. Her spotless reputation and years of service made the accusations almost unthinkable. But as administrators delved into the records, the evidence was impossible to ignore. Patterns emerged across multiple facilities where Marianne had worked, with spikes in mortality rates during her shifts. A quiet investigation began, and the truth that emerged was horrifying. Authorities discovered that Marianne had been injecting patients with lethal doses of potassium chloride, a drug that caused cardiac arrest and was nearly undetectable without specific tests. Her victims ranged from elderly patients nearing the end of their lives to younger individuals expected to recover. Marianne didn't discriminate. Her actions were cold and methodical. When confronted, Marianne confessed without hesitation. She claimed she was acting out of mercy, sparing her patients from suffering and pain. In her mind, she was doing them a favor, providing a release from the struggles of life. But investigators found no evidence to support her claims of suffering. Many of her victims had shown no signs of pain or terminal illness. Her motives appeared less like compassion and more like a twisted need for control and power over life and death. Marianne's trial became a media sensation, with the public struggling to reconcile her kind demeanor with her monstrous crimes. Her calm, almost detached demeanor in court added to the horror, as she showed no remorse for her actions. She was convicted of multiple counts of murder and sentenced to life in prison. To this day, Marianne Doyle's case stands as a chilling reminder of how those entrusted with care can abuse their power. Her nickname, the Angel of Mercy, became a bitter irony, a title that masked the darkness beneath. The medical community implemented stricter oversight measures, but the shadow of her crimes lingered, a stain on the profession she once claimed to serve. Amanda Rivers lived a quiet life as the librarian in a small Texas town. She was the type of person no one noticed, polite but distant, reserved but not unfriendly. To most, she was just another unremarkable figure blending into the background of daily life. But when a series of gruesome murders began to rock the community, Amanda's name surfaced in the most unexpected and chilling way. The first victim was found in the woods just outside of town. His body was mutilated, with strange symbols carved into his flesh. The second victim, discovered weeks later, had suffered a similar fate. The brutality of the crimes terrified the town, and rumors spread of a cult operating in their midst. Fear turned to panic as the body count grew, each murder more grotesque than the last. Police investigations revealed a disturbing connection between the victims. All were members of a local occult group known as the Circle of Aether. The group was secretive, practicing rituals that many dismissed as harmless but eccentric. However, the nature of the murders suggested someone with an intimate knowledge of their practices was targeting them. As investigators delved deeper, they discovered that Amanda Rivers had once been involved with the Circle of Aether. Years earlier, she had joined the group, drawn to their promises of enlightenment and spiritual awakening. However, her membership ended abruptly after a falling out with the group's leader. What exactly transpired was unclear, but records hinted at a bitter dispute that led to her departure. When police searched Amanda's home, they uncovered disturbing evidence. Hidden in a locked drawer were journals filled with dark, cryptic writings about the Circle of Aether. The pages included detailed descriptions of their rituals, along with sketches eerily resembling the crime scenes. Investigators also found maps marked with the locations where the victims' bodies had been discovered. Amanda was arrested, and the town was stunned. How could the quiet librarian they had trusted for years be behind such horrific crimes? But Amanda's story took an even darker turn during her interrogation. While she admitted to knowing the victims and harboring resentment toward the Circle of Aether, she vehemently denied committing the murders. Instead, she claimed someone else was framing her, an accomplice or rival from her past. Her claim was initially dismissed as a desperate attempt to deflect blame, but a deeper investigation revealed inconsistencies. Some evidence seemed too perfectly placed, as though planted to incriminate her. Moreover, footprints at one of the crime scenes didn't match her size, and DNA found under a victim's fingernails belonged to an unidentified individual. Despite these revelations, the overwhelming circumstantial evidence led to Amanda's conviction. She was sentenced to life in prison, but her case remains a source of debate. Did Amanda Rivers act alone, or was she part of a more sinister conspiracy? And if she had an accomplice, who were they? And why did they help carry out such gruesome acts? The truth remains shrouded in mystery, leaving the town haunted by the crimes and the lingering fear that another killer might still be lurking among them. Maria Falk was a name whispered among adventurers who dared to traverse the unforgiving wilderness of Alaska. Known for her rugged independence and unparalleled survival skills, she had built a reputation as a resourceful guide and lodge owner, offering shelter and expertise to travelers braving the remote landscape. Her lodge, nestled deep in the woods, was the last beacon of civilization for miles, a place where weary hikers and hunters could find warmth and rest. But Maria's charm masked a chilling darkness that few lived to uncover. Over the years, stories of missing hikers in the region began to circulate. At first, these disappearances were attributed to the dangers of the Alaskan wilderness: freezing temperatures, unpredictable weather, and treacherous terrain. But as the numbers grew, whispers of something more sinister began to spread. Locals noted that many of the missing had last been seen heading toward Maria's lodge. Despite the growing unease, Maria remained a respected figure in the community. She dismissed the rumors with a wave of her hand, attributing the disappearances to inexperienced adventurers unprepared for the harsh environment. Her reputation as a survivalist lent credibility to her claims, and the authorities, lacking evidence, had no reason to pursue her further. The truth began to unravel when a backpacker named Ellen Harper stumbled into a nearby town, frostbitten and terrified. He claimed he had been lured to Maria's lodge with promises of guidance through the wilderness. Once there, she offered him food and shelter, but something felt off. Maria's demeanor shifted from hospitable to cold, her questions probing deeper into his plans and possessions. That night, he awoke to find Maria standing over him with a knife. He managed to escape into the forest, narrowly avoiding capture. Liam's story prompted an investigation, though many initially doubted his account, dismissing it as the delirium of a frightened traveler. But when authorities searched Maria's property, they uncovered evidence that confirmed his worst fears. Hidden beneath her lodge was a crawl space containing personal belongings of numerous missing individuals: backpacks, boots, journals, and wallets. The grisly discovery didn't end there. Scattered throughout the surrounding woods were shallow graves, some marked with crude symbols carved into nearby trees. Maria's method was as cold and calculated as the environment she thrived in. She would gain her victims' trust, offering them refuge before leading them into the wilderness under the guise of guiding them to safety. There, she would hunt them like prey, using her intimate knowledge of the terrain to track and kill them. Investigators determined her primary motive was robbery, as she stripped her victims of valuables, but the thrill of the hunt seemed to play an equally significant role. Maria was arrested and convicted of multiple counts of murder, earning her the nickname the Ice Queen. Her calm demeanor in court only added to her chilling reputation, as she showed no remorse for her actions. To this day, the dense forests surrounding her lodge remain a place of unease, a grim reminder of the lives lost and the horrors hidden in the Alaskan wilderness.